How will you serve the world? You can provide. So the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is.
I wouldn't say you would want it down here. It's such a beautiful temperature year round that it's unbelievable.
Right.
Up there, I would almost say if you could take them, they were convenient. You could go some places where you could use we use Corsair diffusers in the sludge holding tanks because you want to aerate the hell out of that, and the surge tank. But the aeration tanks, we've pulled the air headers up and just unscrew the Corsair and put actually the fine air bubblers, they could be a 3/4 inch line sticking out 3 feet or whatever, and it's almost like a well screen.
That's what I have at the other plant. I have a 2-inch coming off the air header to a 1-inch, and then 1-inch diffuse with holes in it, and that seems to do very, very well. But I have to make that change over here, and it's like, well, I got to keep water coming out too. So I guess well,
you could your air diffusers, you can pull one at a time. Like if the Corsair diffusers, the biggest problem we have is that if the air goes off for any period of time, the water rushes in. It's got rags and everything. And when you turn it on, it doesn't always blow everything out, and they get rags. All of our plants, we don't have rag removal systems in them. They're just straight sewage coming into the surge tank, and the engineers, instead of convincing the owner that they should spend anywhere from $75,000 to $150,000 for a really good rag removal system, they'll say, okay, we'll buy you a couple of pumps, a vortex pump,
grinder.
No, I don't even like the grinder, strictly vortex. There's one of them, it's a cutter pump. It almost looks like the blade that's down at the bottom, looks like a cigar cutter. And it cuts them up instead of grinding them up. So it'll cut it up so it'll go up in, but the top of the impeller is way up inside of the pump. This will be the opening down at the bottom of the, so the original pumps, the impeller is like down here, and the rags get caught in between the base and the impeller itself, where the vortex, it's up in here turning, and nothing gets in there. So they find that that's cheaper to convince the owner that they can get away with that, but they don't tell the owner that the rags are going to go someplace else in the plant and cause a problem. And I said to myself, the hell is this bullshit? You know, you're trying to make the plant to be the best for you as the engineer and the operator to operate, so that the health department's happy with what the hell you got. And we get an inspection every 90 days. They have a health department inspector come around. They write up everything. There is no doubt about it, which is good because you're dealing with municipalities down here, and if you can talk to somebody and really get their ear. But I'm dealing, if I got 30 jobs on Long Island, I'm dealing with 30 different owners. And you've got to convince it, and you can't sell shit. You know what I'm saying? You can sell electricity, you can sell water, you can sell telephone service and like that. You can't sell the stuff that comes out of a sewage treatment plant. So they don't want to spend any more money than they have to. I've been a pretty good salesman over the years that I'll go in and I'll get the ear of an owner, and I'll explain to him what we've got here, and he'll say, well, you know, that makes pretty good sense. If, you know, we do it and do it right, we don't have these emergency calls that a pump is plugged up, we got sewage backing up into the community. I got a shopping center. It's a big shopping center. We get probably 45 to 50,000 gallons a day through there. We've got a Dave & Buster's. You know what that is? Sitting right next to the sewage treatment plant. Prior to the iPhones coming out, we used to get more flip phones in that pumping station because people would go in and take a dump or whatever. They were half drunk, and the damn flip phone would go down and get flushed. An iPhone, it don't go past that toilet bowl, unit. an apartment complex that we had. I had to get a hold of the manager on the job and the owner and say, look, you got somebody in here that is using hypodermic needles, and you've got to find out who it is so that they know that they've got to dispose of them correctly. And he says, what do you mean? I said, we just cleaned out the bottom of the pumping station with a cesspool truck, and my son was the one that was down there. I make sure that they've got leather boots on with a good sole, and then a rubber boot over that. I don't even let them go in with hip boots because stainless steel razor blades, hypodermic needles, I don't want anybody to get stuck or anything of it. Yeah. And we took a bunch of them and we put them into a bucket and brought them up, and he looked at them and he said to himself, oh my God, this is not right. Yeah. So they found out that it was somebody that was on
diabetic or
and that stopped. And then we had another job where the guy, somebody was using the colostomy bags. Those bags are so thick plastic so that they don't break when somebody's using them, that they were throwing those down the toilet. They should have been put into the dumpster, and they were getting in the pumps and causing all kinds. We were actually wearing out the stainless steel cable, bringing the damn pump up every day.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So it's, you know, it's each and every one of them becomes a dilemma sometimes. But I've got one job where you got one settling tank and you got two drives in it. If one drive goes down, you've got to take the whole tank and shut it off because it's got to go. You know, the engineer said, well, why don't you just run it with one drive until the other drive gets fixed? And I said, you're going to get bulking on one end, and that's the end where they took out the drive, and it's going to go right over the weirs and contaminate everything. Well, I didn't think about that. How long do you think it's going to be before they build it? I said, I'd be damned if I know. The plant's 35 years old. They took the thing and sent it to a factory, and they're actually building one, putting it all on drives so that if we need one down the road, they won't have to have the old one to rebuild it. Because so many of these companies have been bought out by somebody, and then somebody else, and then somebody else, and nobody's got the original information on what they're using for a settling tank drive. Right. And it was so funny. We went to where we're going to go later this evening. It's on one of the deep water canals on the ocean side, and I'm looking up and down the canal, and I'm saying to myself, my God, there's got to be a few $100,000 worth of those davits that they use to bring the boats up out. Yeah. I have to, you know, pull teeth to get a $1,200 stainless steel boom hoist with a winch on it, and it's not even electric. It's to pull the pump out of a pumping station. This is how frustrated I get sometimes, kind of how that you see people down here, because they've got to have the money and they've got to enjoy the lifestyle. And if you're going to take your boat out every night, or you got a high tide, or you got some really wind coming in, something like that, and up there I've got a $5,000 or $6,000 pump down there that get rags in, and I got to pull it out, and it's it's frustrating. And I think that sometimes I would love to continue this type of work until the day I die, but it gets frustrating dealing with the people that don't want to spend the money to make something do what it's supposed to do. Right. And the engineers, a lot of them, they just get involved in it for a short period of time, and if they never deal with that person again, they don't give a damn, because they'll move on to something else. Because
that's what I always say with the engineers. It's like, no, there's not been one engineer that I know in the wastewater industry that thinks about preventative maintenance.
Yeah.
Right? So absolutely. They build it, they put it up, okay, boom. They don't think about 3 steps ahead, like, oh, what is it going to take to take this out? That's why when I built this plant, every single piece of the plant can come apart and be replaced. So if something happens and a car flies out of nowhere and hits one of the tanks and it's damaged, guess what? I just unbolt it, pull it out, crane, put another one in there. Absolutely. They didn't have that with the old plant that was there. It was all one piece. I'm like, how do you do that?
Exactly.
Yeah, I definitely thought about all those things. My blowers are up.
Yeah.
You know, I have 3 blowers, one for each train, and a one in the middle with that valves between both air bays. So that way, no matter what, I'm gonna have air going to it, and I have a little 5 horsepower blower that just does the EQ and the digesters.
That's good.
And then I have butterfly valves up at the top where I can just isolate the little blower just to do the EQ, or I can open it up. And how I have it right now, because we've been trying to figure out what air we can set it to where it's not too much air. We have 3, which is our little blower. We put a shiv on it and made it bigger so that it would slow the blower down. So we took probably a 15 horsepower blower, made it a 10 horsepower blower, and it still is a lot of air. You know what I mean? So we cut down on the diffusers. We only got like 3 of them in there strategically, one in the front, one in the middle, and one in the end. And so what I do now is, like, I'll run blower 3, which is the smaller blower, and then the 5 horsepower blower, I'll turn that one on as well. So now I have just a little bit extra air. Our goal is to kind of tie the number 4 blower, which is the 5 horsepower blower, to like the float on the influent. So as when it starts pumping into the plant, boom, that second blower comes on. That thing dies, boom, that little blower goes off, and I still have one little blower. That's where we kind of want to get to.
You have sufficient amount of air. Do you have air indicators on the top of your filters?
The filters?
Yeah, the filters to know whether they're clean or dirty.
Yeah, it's
because that's one of the things that some of our plants are inside, and they got dirt floors. And the filters are inside the plant.
The air filter.
The air filters. So instead of taking the cold air outside in the wintertime, because we'll get frost that thick on the influent pipe coming in, and when it starts to melt, it ends up going inside of the pump of the air, the blower itself. And
the condensation.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable. And so if we have them inside, sometimes we're kicking up enough dust, or if it's outside this time of the year, we're starting to get pollen. We could pull a filter every 2 to 3 weeks because the pollen is so heavy. So we have these little indicators. They're about $30.
Yeah, I have them on outdoor.
Yeah, and
then when it goes red, then you know.
When it pops up, and you just take and push it down after you put a new filter in it. And I tell my guys, I said, you got to look at those all the time, because from yesterday to today can make all the difference in the world. And if your blower is struggling and you're not getting enough air in to keep your airless functioning, you're going to have a real problem.
That is one of the reasons, and I think one of the reasons they gave us the bigger blowers was they thought we were going to use the airlift, which would make sense because it takes a lot of air to use to pull that. So now that we're not, you just had me get this revelation. Now it's like, wow, there's a lot of air in there because we're not using it how it's supposed to be, right?
Because these complexes are once they're established, like this one place is about 35 years old. So the only thing that has gone on in the last 10 years or so is that some of these places, they've gone for water restrictors, and their flows that might have been 70,000 gallons, and over a period of 10 years it's down to 50,000 gallons. So that's why some of these plants that we've got up there, they're older plants. They were designed for a flow of 75, 100,000 gallons or 100 gallons per person per day. As time went on, they're putting flow restrictors on all of the faucets, the showers, and the newer toilets, or they're taking and they're putting something into the toilets where you're only using, a gallon or so instead of the original 5
So you're not
gallons.
Getting the normal wastewater.
So we're not getting,
for the plant,
but you're still getting the same BOD load.
Yeah.
So it's not diluted like it used to be. But the other thing is, you had said something. Oh, you've got air here, and air here. We've got all of these air drop legs. We could have 16 to 18 of them, depending upon the length of the tank. We start with a little higher air here, and I reduce it down so that what's leaving the aeration tank going into the settling tank doesn't have as much air in it to possibly cause sludge to pop up.
Done that too.
So you've done that too, okay?
Right. And what I notice, it's the weirdest thing though, is like as I try to do that, and maybe I just need a more efficient air system in there, but as it drops off, when I do that and I put the less air at the end, it seems to be like the water starts getting hazy and starts getting turbid, and I'm hoping to do that because that's what I did at the other plant. I had it rip, and then boom, 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 boom to the basically the last 4 diffusers. I didn't even use it because the force of the flow would just push it through the 6-inch pipe going into the clarifier. You know, so I really didn't have that many pop-ups. That's what I'm trying to do here, but it seems like I just can't get. It's either too much solids in the clarifier, or they're too much solids back in the aeration bay, and what it's tricking me into doing is trying to waste. It's trying to say, oh, I'm too much and I'm bulking, but I know that bulking isn't right to waste because I would just make the bulking worse. I understand I have to age it, but it's being difficult allowing me to age it. Now, it has been a year, and yes, it is much, much better than it was. But at the same time, I'm still dealing with the same issue that I had at the old plant, which is it wants to bulk. And I'm trying to figure out why that is. Is it the lack of food? Is it there's, you know what I mean? Because I'd rather have a plant overloaded than underloaded. And right now, I believe it's underloaded. And I only take my samples every 2 weeks for the bi-weeklies, which is the CBOD and all that. But I run TSS and fecals 4 days a week for the reuse. That's one of the other things I thought. I was like, okay, so I backed down the air so I could increase the pH. I thought, okay, great. Well, you know that when there's ammonia in the effluent or in the, you know, in the clarifier, it's not going to settle very well either. So I'm battling back and forth with it. Okay, do I have enough air? Okay, I have enough air. It's treated. It's still bulking. Okay, I'm backing down on the air. Okay, it's not so treated, but it's still bulking, you know? And I'm just like, I'm going back and forth here using every tool I know in the book on this simple, supposed to be plant. And it's
breaking your...
It's driving me nuts. And we know it's new, so we're absorbing all this cost. Me driving back down here. I mean, I'm here 6 hours a day, but there's only so much you can really do in 6 hours a day. I've spent nights here. It's kicking my ass, you know, and I'm just like, I don't understand it. It's like, it doesn't even make any sense. Even my partner, who has operated big plants as well, he's like, this makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Either by the book or by my experience. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. Why is it doing that? You know what I mean? So I was like, all right, then it's hydraulics. First of all, one of the big things that they didn't do was build it the way I wanted it to. So the clarifiers, usually when you have that big of a plant, you got double hoppers, right? Okay, I told him I don't want double hoppers. I said I want one hopper, one in the middle concentrated, and I want it this long and this big because I have that at the other plant and it works fine. But I told them, I said, I want the baffle to go all the way across. When it comes into the...
Are we walking?
Yeah, we're walking. Comes into the train, I want it to go the entire length of that clarifier so it has a nice settling. But what did he do? He baffled it off in the corner like I knew it was, so it comes and goes...
Something for your mind.